The hour 6 p.m. having arrived, I call to order this regular meeting of the Municipal Services, Facilities, and Infrastructure Committee, MSFI. This meeting is being broadcast live on the City of Keene YouTube channel and channel 1302. Video is being streamed on the city's website and is posted on the website by the end of the next business day, barring any technical difficulties. Copies of the printed agenda are available in the wall pockets as you enter the room. The public will be recognized to ask questions and make comments on the agenda item under discussion. After being recognized, all remarks are to be made through the chair. I will not recognize an individual a second time until everyone who wishes has had a chance to speak. Anyone who wishes to address the committee is asked to go to the microphone, identify yourself by name and address prior to speaking. Our minute taker is participating remotely this evening. Committee members, remember to turn on your microphones when speaking. I wonder if we could just turn it and leave them on. I'll have to ask about that. If the minute taker is unable to hear, they'll ask you to speak louder or turn it on. I call to order this meeting, and I note that all 5 of us are present, and therefore we have a quorum. So let's see, done with that. First item on our agenda is the never-ending conversation regarding a piece of land on Church Street, 100 Church Street. And our Public Works Director has come forth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Don Lucier, Public Works Director. Excited to be talking to you tonight about the 100 Church Street property. Since we've been talking about this for a while, and for the benefit of the folks tuned in at home, I thought it might be helpful to start with a little bit of a recap. So this item first came to the attention of city staff through a request from a neighboring property owner related to activities happening on that specific city-owned parcel. During the course of discussions with that property owner, the potential to sell the property to the abutter came up. Staff supported this idea and brought the question to FOP to seek the manager's authority to negotiate and execute a purchase and sale agreement. That happened on July 24th, and FOP did vote to sell the property. City Council had their deliberations on August 21st. They had their discussion and ended up referring the matter to MSFI to review further. MSFI picked it up on September 3rd. There was pretty extensive public comment during that meeting. And ultimately, this committee voted to sell the property. However, between the 3rd of September and when the City Council picked it back up, there was additional public interest that resulted in the project getting sent back to the committee for further discussion. So MSFI took the matter up again on September 24th, and after, again, considerable public comment, the committee once again voted to sell the parcel. When the item returned to the City Council on October 2nd, it was accompanied by 2 separate letters from property owners, as well as a petition that was signed by, I believe, 21 residents of the neighborhood. It was also accompanied by a correspondence in support of selling the property. Once again, lengthy discussion at the City Council, and the item was sent back to MSFI for additional deliberation, and here we are tonight. So that's a little background. I want to say that we've discussed over the previous meetings about this property that the property is not a park. Parks by city code are designated by the council. They're listed in city code. And that designation comes with it a certain regulatory framework in terms of prohibited activities, permitted activities. It addresses things like use of tobacco, use of alcohol, what have you. This parcel falls under the definition of unimproved city land. And as such, it's designated as the Public Works Director's responsibility, which is why I'm here talking to you tonight instead of Kara. Our management, Public Works' management of these unimproved city properties is pretty minimal. we'll respond and clear illegal dumping if that's reported to us. If there's a hazardous tree that's overhanging an abutting property owner, we'll take care of that. But we are not actively managing these spaces for the public's enjoyment. They are, by definition, unimproved. A lot of them are land that was either acquired by tax deed because it was useless land, or it was donated to the city as conservation land, and it's just there to be preserved as, undeveloped land. I mentioned that distinction between parks and unimproved land because over the past few months, there have been a number of concept plans, proposals for improvement and whatnot brought forward. And a lot of those ideas have merit, quite honestly. But they're definitely outside of the realm of unimproved city land. Implementing those ideas, I think, would be an implied acknowledgement that the city council wants to convert its unimproved land to a city park and maintain it as such. So I'd respectfully suggest that we've kind of put the cart before the horse a little bit, and we've been asking the wrong question. We shouldn't be asking, what do we do with this land? The first question that you all need to answer is this a property that the city council wants to convert to a city park and manage as a city park? So with that in mind, I prepared the graphic that you see here on the screens, and I think you have at your desks. This is a comparison of the subject property, 100 Church Street. I think you'll see if I point to it. Here, I apologize, I used red and green, that was not thoughtful. But it's shown in red. It's about 5,375 square feet. What you'll notice is within a quarter of a mile radius of that property, there are 5 other city park areas. There's Railroad Square, about 2,400 square feet, so we'll call it about 4 times the size. That's about 1,000-foot walking distance away. The courts on Water Street, obviously that's a different user group, right? It's a different activity there, but about 1,400 square feet, so we'll call it 2.5 times the size. That's about 1,400 square feet, linear feet walking distance. Of course, Russell Park is a much larger parcel, 7 acres. Again, it's about a quarter of a mile away. Robin Hood Park, much larger, 117 acres. That's a little further. That one is about 3/4 of a mile walking distance. The Church Street Pocket Park, I think, is very comparable to this one. It's 1,200 square feet, so we'll call it 2 times the size. And that, again, is only 1,200 feet away. Full disclosure, Central Square and 92 Church Street are not parks. Central Square is public right-of-way, so it's a little different from a regulatory perspective. 92 Church Street is part in the public right-of-way and part unimproved city land. But I bring 92 Church Street up specifically because it's obviously across the street from the subject parcel, but I think that is a property that would be a very good candidate for the kind of volunteer improvements, neighborhood adoption that's come forward as one of the ideas that we've been talking about, where the neighborhood could become actively involved in planting flowers, maintaining that space, that sort of thing. So as you can see, there's a lot of open space opportunities for public to recreate outdoors within that neighborhood. So again, the question comes down to, is this property something that the city council wants to develop as a public park? The Parks and Rec director, Kara, and I have discussed this at some length. We continue to believe that an improved public park at this location is not necessary for the reasons I've just kind of described. That said, if the city council decides that you do want a improved city park at this location, I would suggest, that's the first question to answer. Great, you come to that conclusion. The next step is to put this into the CIP, and then through that process, through our normal process, go through a thorough public engagement where everybody gets to weigh in on what amenities we want at this park, what kind of activities should be appropriate here. And then we go through that process, we come up with a plan, and we fund the improvements through the capital improvement plan. So that's the recommendation, to focus tonight more on, is this a place that you want to park or not? Everything else, the various plans for development, grant opportunities, public adoption of the public space, all of that can be discussed if this is a place that you want to develop a park. And that's my remarks for tonight.
Thank you. A lot of what you said, I had written. You did focus it. I just want to throw out a couple of thoughts and some ground rules for this evening. We've had this discussion before. We've, obviously, as you ran down, a lot of the arguments and discussions have already been heard. So I'm going to ask that anyone who speaks, restrain yourself to 1 to 2 minutes. This is an open meeting, so anyone can speak. Certainly the people that wrote letters, we would want to give them an opportunity. The discussion is on, as you said, whether we want to sell the property, or I'm just going to shorten it and call it retain. Shorten, sale, or retain. I don't want to hear about the fact that individuals have drug issues, homelessness, that we need to get into the uses to try to cure society's issues. It's not going to happen. We're just talking about whether we're going to keep this little bit of land or not. And as you said, if we do decide to retain it, city staff will work on a plan, be it to make it a city park or maybe just another piece of land that gets lawn mowed. Thought came to mind that there was some talk that there are concerns about the safety for the abutters, and I would put forth a thought, if you are concerned and if the committee decides we want to retain it, you could always put up a fence. Not the city put up a fence, but the property owners, abutters, put up a fence. Not saying that that's going to keep anyone out or whether that's a great idea or not, but that's just a way to assure the safety. Personally, I don't want to see the city getting somehow hooked into putting up cameras and trying to monitor it as such. This is just a little piece of land all over the place, all over the city, downtown. We have the same situation, and we cannot ask the city to take on this responsibility. Overall, if the committee decides that we do want to sell the property to the abutters, do consider that there's been no negotiations. The abutters do not know a sale price or terms or conditions. They may not want it when they find out. So, I'm just throwing out some things that have come to me over the past month. So there's no guarantees. And also consider that if the council decides to retain the property, you could always turn around in a year and say, yeah, this isn't working right. Let's talk to the abutters and sell it. So these are just some thoughts that came to me. I'm not pitching yes or no. I'm not driving this discussion. I just want to facilitate it for the committee and for the public. So all that being said, committee, I'm going to ask that the letter writers, if they would like to address their communications, this would be an appropriate time. So if any of the people that sent in communications, Council Williams, please. Good evening.
Hi, Councilor Bobby Williams, Ward 2, 66 North Lincoln Street. I'm here to ask that we retain this property. It's true, it's not a park, but that was kind of surprising to me because it functions as a park. It's functioned as a park for a long time. I think it's kind of illustrative of the way things happen on the east side, that it was just kind of allowed to become not a park and just become the way it is. I think we can fix this. I have submitted, I would say, a vision of what one possible redesign of this park could be. And my intention in doing that was to show some of the ways that we could address the safety issues, which, are real, and, the neighbors have valid concerns. I think fencing is, as you mentioned, one of the first things that could happen, and that doesn't necessarily have to happen on the city's dime. There's also a need to clear out the vegetation. There's quite a lot of, I would say invasive burning bush that could be removed that happens to block a lot of the view from the east side. If that was taken out, there would be much better lines of vision. Additionally, I would say there's a portion of the berm that could be cut down that would make it easier to see from the road. And if we put a path, essentially from Church Street to Norway Street that goes through the park, that would drive foot traffic through the park. And they say more eyes on the street, the safer a location is. And finally, I'd love to find an activity like community gardening that would bring people into that space and activate that space, because if there's, people there doing good things, positive for the community, other folks who maybe not doing such positive things might move on down the road. And as I understand it, some of them already are moving on down the road. There's a property up the street on Church Street where a lot of folks have been doing the things that they've been doing in this park, but that is a private lot. And I think that's just that shows that, we can push people out of this park, but they're still going to wind up somewhere. So we should be thinking of a holistic solution. We can make this really a gem for the community. It's, there's some other parks within a quarter mile, but this is the densest part of our city. And it's really, it'd be a real block corner without it. And it's, anytime you bike from Ward 2 into downtown, there's no rail trails on Ward 2, so what you end up doing is you bike past it. So I think of it as a gateway to Ward 2, which is why it's important to me, even though it's just barely into Ward 1. It could really be a valuable spot, and I've spent some time there, and it's a beautiful spot, and I'd hate to lose it for the city. So, thank you.
Thank you. We have two other communications, Paul, and then Ken.
Hi there, again, Paul Rodenhauser, 24 Pearl Street, Keene, New Hampshire. I don't know, is this on? Yeah, okay. Without repeating myself, I think the city's made it clear that they want to sell the park. I just think the plan that's kind of been spitballing around and formulated should be implemented on all of these other designated parks within the city. And yeah, I think the letter was pretty lengthy submitted, so, I won't bore you with repeating myself, but that's it.
Thank you. Your informational packet is quite good. Thank you. And Ken or Mrs. Ken?
We're separate, we're individuals.
One of you.
We're individuals, we both get a chance.
Fine.
Different viewpoints. Robin Koss, 51 Railroad. And I am separate from my husband, the son, I guess. You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Bottom line, you have a new master plan. In the master plan, it designates the importance of keeping green spaces. This is the last small green space in that neighborhood. I will reiterate for the last and only time that in that neighborhood are a lot of elderly and disabled people. The park is already paved. The redesign to it is minimal. It's 5,000 square feet. There are many people, including my landscape architect husband, who have looked at different ways to update what exists that would be minimal cost and easy to maintain. There are walkways. There are already seating areas there that can be moved around. The park serves a purpose for the people in the neighborhood, such as myself, who are handicapped, who use walking aids. Russell Park is too far. The Church Street Park has 2 benches, and that's it. This has trees. This has flowers. This has proximity to 800 people within 2 blocks who cannot utilize the other parks. Lastly, I really want to thank the council, the committee, for all the time and all of the effort and all of the respect that you have given to our voices. And I want you to understand as citizens, once again, we are trying to keep something that once you sell this to the abutter, we do not know what they will do. It will belong to them. If they want to develop it, they can. We will lose that space. Remember again, the abutting area is a city parking lot owned. I want to thank you for your interest. I want to thank you for your patience. I want to remind you that we only had a few weeks to put things together, and we created a lot of interest and a lot of support. The citizens, all the citizens, need to be heard. Yes, the other parks exist. I live right off of Railroad Square. I don't consider it a park. It's a thoroughfare. And again, thank you for everything that you're doing. The master plan says to keep the green spaces.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Hi, Ken Koss, 51 Railroad. And also I want to thank everybody for considering this, giving us more time to think about it, and I really appreciate that, that you did that. I also want to, thank our Public Works Director. It kind of underscored a point that I made earlier, that in good urban design, Pocket Park should be 300 to 400 feet away from population centers, so this displays that that's where that park should be. So far, we submitted a brief plan with 22 signatures committing to be stewards of the site. The vast majority of those people are from East Keene, and this was submitted for the October 2nd council meeting for information. And that's the one that we only had a few days really to do. And then we submitted a more developed plan for the last council meeting with another 25 signatures, people wanting to keep the space public. That's a lot of people. And we didn't go door to door. We didn't have a signing campaign. We just talked to some people. We also got people to be interested in this at the East Keene neighborhood meetings. So I'm certain that if we need more signatures, if that would reinforce even more people want this place, then we can go do it very quickly. But the time we had, I think we demonstrated people would like to keep it open. The plan that we submitted now is a broader partnership between East Keene residents and the city. We outline how residents will care for the park, including periodic pickup, and I know even the budding neighbors do that, which is a fantastic thing. Walking by, driving by, observing what's going on at various times of the day, and then encouraging low-intensity uses. So not now talking about redesign, just talking about low-intensity uses that could happen there, like meetups, let's go have a Tai Chi, or let's have yoga, let's do this or that. And I think it's a great meeting place for all those people, especially the ones with some of the issues with mobility. It needs to be safe for the next door residents, and that's really important, and maybe that's how this whole thing started. So our plan, in that plan that we submitted for information that you have now, we did ask the city to investigate additional fences, whether done by the owner or done by the city, motion lights. You don't like cameras, I heard, but motion-activated cameras, and then any signs that the city can post. And I did look at a Keene ordinance on regulatory authority on unimproved land, Chapter 58, Article 4, Section 5868, and it did say that the city can put up, and I could be wrong, so correct me, but city can put up certain signs like no alcohol, no camping, things like that, even though it's unimproved space. We can do that, I think. We also included a sample signage request in that form that you have, and if you decide to retain the park, we'll submit that to the city. We're also asking in that letter to look at transferring the parcel to the Parks and Rec Department. My understanding from talking to them is they mow it right now. They said they have the equipment to mow it. So they're already mowing it. If they control the space, the biggest boon is they can place signs that say the park is closed dusk to dawn. That's a big deal to help control use. So if you decide to retain it based on all of this, we would like to get together, 30 seconds, and with the people who live next to the park, with the landowner, with the city and the broad East King community. And I think that working together, we can come up with something that works for all, that provides safety, that still makes it available to us, and does all the things that we all would like to do, and everyone would be happy. So we hope that happens. We have a chance to put that together and make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the public? Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name's Scott Olmsted. I'm a resident at 54 Meeting House Road here in Keene, but I'm a commercial tenant at 103 Roxbury Street, second floor, with windows that overlook Norway and windows that overlook the park or the green space. And I witness what's going on in the green space daily, including just at 4:30 this afternoon when somebody else. Every day we see public urination, public defecation, and the alley or the dumpster right next to the green space. That's a daily event. And I know that it's probably up to the owner of the real estate to take care of that because it's private property. But I would hope that if the city decides that they want to retain the land and convert it to a park or whatever they're going to turn it into, is they put public restrooms somewhere there or near that site. And I think that would solve a lot of the problem because it is daily. My staff are looking out the window and they're seeing whether it's a man or a woman out there 4:30 in the afternoon as we're ready to leave the office doing their business in the driveway. So I'm not going to speak any more on what other things I've seen in that park during the daylight hours. I don't know what goes on there at night. And I have a tremendous amount of sympathy for homeless and those. And I mean, I support that. We donate. But I just think if the city buys the land or retains the land, put a public toilet in there, anything, whether it's a little porta potty or whether it's something that's maybe on the 92 Church Street side where these folks can go in and use a clean and safe toilet that has running water at a minimum. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming. Yep. 1 sec. Yes, you, in the back. Forward. Jody.
Hey everyone, Jody Newell, 32 Leverett Street. I'll be really, really quick. I just wanted to make one comment and ask a question. And so, just by way of comment, I feel like, you know, the process is really important in how this has played out. I think there are a lot of people, I think that there were conversations that were happening between the owners, the tenants, the city staff and things like that were happening for quite a while, it seems, before the community was brought in on this conversation. I think what we've seen is that, you know, since the community has been alerted to the possibility that this would be sold, you've seen so many people step up and really want to help out. And I just had one question that I wanted to ask is, you know, kind of the whole process of kind of how this has played out is that, you know, it's easy enough for anybody to look up public records and what this property is assessed at, what anybody's property is assessed at. And I think it's really interesting. I'm just very curious. I don't know the answer to this question. Is that in 2024 it was assessed at $59,800. I believe that's accurate, but just about $60,000. And then for 2025, it's assessed at $6,000. So I'm just curious what, you know, what the discrepancy was, what was the difference between 2024 and 2025, and kind of maybe how that plays into, you know, being willing to buy the property, and of course what can happen with that property afterwards.
I don't have an answer to how they came up with $59,000 for that, but my limited experience in real estate tells me that's not likely. It would be a negotiation in terms of if it was to be sold. But the question this evening is, do we even want to consider selling it or not?
Thanks.
So I can't get you, maybe the city manager has a better insight.
Well, so this question has been asked a couple times in terms of the value, and Councilor Hawes actually spoke to the city assessor about this question. And the parcel was valued as a buildable parcel. That's why it had a higher value. It's been an exempt from taxes for a long time, so it's not something that would have, you know, raised a red flag for us until this conversation started to happen. And when it did, they corrected it as an unbuildable lot.
Okay, but there definitely is no assumption that if it is sold, there's any number specific that it's going to be. But go ahead, Jody.
Can I
if
just
you wanna
ask one
continue.
follow-up question? So if the abutter were to purchase the property, would it be possible for them to get a variance, create one larger plot, and then it would be buildable from that point out?
Potentially, I don't know. It would depend on what they are planning to do with the lot, but if they did do that, we would certainly tax it as a buildable lot.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, there is no guarantee or assumption what the use, if sold, would be. I think that's a pretty clear. As long as it's allowable by zoning, even by variance, anything could happen. They could make it a water park, they could make it a parking lot, or they could just leave it as grass, a cornfield. Hang on one second. I'm going to come to the committee. Is there anyone else in the public that, yes, ma'am?
Hi, my name is Sarah Allen, 164 Roxbury Street. I'm going to get emotional here for a second. I knew I was going to. 10 plus years ago, my father lived in that little yellow house next to the pocket park. And for a short time in my life, I got to live there with him. He maintained the park for a while. His name was Jeffrey Allen. Lots of the community know him for all kinds of reasons. He used to grow beautiful sunflowers there. They grew super tall. It always had flowers and his owl statues out there and all of that. So I'm not going to go deep into this. He passed away 7 years ago, and after his passing, there was a group of people. We did a fundraiser, and people maintained that park for a good amount of time afterwards. They would plant the flowers and keep the bushes nice and grow the things that he used to grow. It was too hard for me at the time to be a part of maintaining it, so I didn't help at the time, which I look back and feel kind of poor about. But I recently found out that they might be getting rid of the space, and that kind of brought things back to my attention. So obviously very emotionally and personally, that space holds something in my heart, and if I had the chance, I would actively, every single day, every moment that I could, be a part of maintaining this space. I would help build a fence. I will help grow the flowers again. I would be an active part of this if it is decided to keep it. And with all of that, I highly understand and agree with all of the issues there as well with the substance abuse happening in the park. I see that as well. I drive to the co-op and I see all the same people there very often with their, I visit it from time to time because it was my dad's park. I've climbed that tree there and think about him. I go there and take pictures of the owl statues that have been there since he passed and before. I see the beer cans smashed there, and I would love to change that. And I think if it was able to be like legally turned into a active real park with the rules and regulations, and I like the idea of like fences and community gardening, if we had something more going on there or like restricted area, like we know we can't keep people away from areas doing whatever they choose to do in life, but if there were signs and potentially a little fence or a little pathway, that could obviously help kind of push it out. And as I mentioned, I will be an active part of it since this is the conclusion that we're coming to. But yeah, if it was an allowance to have a no substance use sign or a community garden sign, I think if it had something more specific posted, it might make it more family friendly, and it would just obviously mean a lot to a lot of people and me personally. So yeah, I'm very much so hoping that it can stay and I can actively become part of helping maintain it again, such as my dad did when we got to live there. So thank you.
Thank you. I think we've got your name and address, and if it happens, they go. And if it is retained, I think they're going to look for you.
If I can speak to anybody afterwards for more details and information, I will talk to whoever I can.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to address the committee? And then I'm going to go to the committee for some discussion. And just one opening word before I go to the committee. We're going to make a decision tonight. I think that the abutters need an answer, the public needs an answer, and the council needs to move on to other things. I think we put as much time into this almost as we did the city budget. How do you like that? Not quite, but not city staff. Jacob, Counselor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a kind of comment followed by a question around the same topic. I think there's, even though this conversation over the months has felt at times a little bit charged, I think, and felt like we're on different sides, I think there's an agreement that what everybody wants is for this space to be safe and to be an asset. You know, what that looks like or the path we take to get there might be a little bit different, but I think I feel agreement in the room tonight that the status quo here is not going to work, and we're going to have to do something one way or the other. To that end, several communications that we've gotten in the past and some speakers tonight have talked about this, you know, the folks that are kind of rallying to save this park and come up with stewardship plans, understanding the concerns of the residents, understanding the concerns of the commercial tenants, and willing to work with, work with those folks with concerns. I wonder if, as the plans have developed and the petitions that we have in front of us, have those been crafted with any input from the abutters, whether that's representatives or whether that is tenants, residential or commercial or otherwise? I guess I'm looking, and I don't know who from the public would want to answer this, but how have the petitions in front of us, how have we gotten there? Have those conversations between the kind of two groups taken place already? I'm not clear on that.
I think the petitions just came to us. I don't fully understand your question, Jacob. 1 second, please. Can you clarify, please?
I can try and clarify. I guess that I'm hearing that in the future there is a willingness to talk with people who have concerns and work with the groups that have concerns that originally were interested in purchasing this property. I wonder if the group that has those concerns and the group that is submitting the petitions around management and stewardship of this have gotten together outside of this council space.
Don't know, but again, focus on, do we want to sell it or don't we want to sell it? Not on what happens if we're not going to sell it. Does that help?
I think the answer to that question would help inform my decision on
Okay.
the question we're
I'll put
deciding.
it out there. Answer, anyone? Yes, ma'am.
Very briefly, Michelle Chalice, 25 Beach Street. There were indeed, to the councilor's question, 2 meetings held on site during very available hours. One was Saturday, I'm not remembering, the other might have been a Monday evening, to which there were members of the community as well as various other people. So in this short of a period of time, no, an appropriate design process with adequate community involvement has not been held. However, what you're seeing has not been developed in isolation.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You
Anybody?
go first. You were ready.
I'm not ready.
Oh, okay. Well, then
You're up.
I just want to thank the public for their ongoing patience with us while we, flush out these discussions even more. If you recall in the beginning, I was one of those people who was very much for the immediate sale of this property for many of the reasons Dawn had outlined in your presentation. However, with more time, hearing from the public, reviewing the master plan, the newest master plan, which I sat on the committee and helped develop, a couple of themes continue to be come to the forefront of my mind. As someone said, some of the tenants in the master plan included the creation of more third spaces and community nodes. So I think this spot is a perfect example of that. And I don't see an immediate need for us to sell the property immediately. I think it doesn't solve the one problem we have, the homelessness. This is becoming indicative of a larger homelessness issue that we're having throughout the city. So yeah, we can be reactive and just say, sell it, we want to get rid of it and wipe our hands of this problem. But it's not really solving the problem. And that's what I'm concerned about. So just with the airport decision, I know it went to FOP, or backtrack a little bit. It wasn't until it came to this committee, to MSFI, where it really picked up traction from the community, and the discussion really was with the community started. And I don't want to give improper credit to one of our counselors, but I know one of my fellow counselors has always referred to MSFI as the People's Committee. And I think that that's really relevant when you see issues like this where it bounces from one committee to another committee. Sometimes I'm just going to throw it out there. MSFI is more popular. But so I think we owe it to the community. There's been an outpouring of interest and support in wanting to designate this as a park, and a lot of confusion, not realizing it wasn't already a park. So I'm just going to urge you guys to side on let's give this a little more time and see what the community can do, because you know, we've always said it, when 8 people get together, incredible things can be done in this community. So let's give ourselves a chance. Let's give the community a chance to make something really beautiful out of this.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Laura. Councilor Tobin.
One thing I just want to highlight in case is John mentioned the CIP, Capital Improvement Plan, and I just want to mention that that is a 10-year plan. So if this were to be made a park, just so we're clear, that would be added somewhere into the development process over the next 10 years. It's not going to happen next month. This came to us as a safety concern for the residents, and I haven't really heard anything that is going to address that in the near future. I understand that people have an attachment to this piece of land, and I think it looks beautiful, and I think that right now, managed by Public Works and owned by the city, we're not really in a position to keep those residents safe. That was one of the things that I brought up initially at one of the first conversations, that this is surrounded by, there's low-income housing there, there's senior housing there, and having certain behaviors there feels particularly problematic to me, because those are vulnerable people. In terms of I think a lot of the plans, I do think they are wonderful. I would love to see that energy focused on the property across the street. I hear the idea of a fence, that the neighbors could, the abutters could put up a fence. I've gone there several times, and most often the people that I run into are the people who live in that house right next door. They're the ones using that and really owning it. And I'll tell you, I was across the street one time, and they questioned me. They wanted to see what I was up to, which I appreciated. But they are monitoring the space. They are gauging it. They're watching who is there. They are picking up trash on a daily basis. I didn't see any of those people I did go to one of the meetings. I didn't see any of those people there. But the people who live there, they are focused on safety. They know their neighbors. They are greeting people by name. I think that this would need to be, if we were to retain it and develop any plans, it would need to be converted to a park. It couldn't be managed, I don't see, by Public Works. And that would go into, I don't want to necessarily say the bottom of the list, but that's kind of, I don't want to make these neighbors wait another 8 years.
Thank you. Yes, Councilor.
Thank you. First of all, Councilor Workman is correct. We've always considered the MSFI committee, the committee of citizens, or this is the committee where people are heard. And that's why this issue, to Chairman Greenwald's credit, is here. Finance, it's a little different than MSFI, where it's basically just based on dollars and cents. And here, we deal with emotion a little bit more, and that's not a bad thing. And first of all, if this is, this is kind of front page in the Sentinel, if this is front page news, our city's in damn good shape. Because if this is what we're talking about, and seriously, you look what's going on in other communities, read their headlines, and it's like, a lot of other communities would like to have this be their headline, trust me. First of all, this conversation is a win-win. Both sides of the aisle want the same thing. They want a better position or outcome for this little piece of grass. Once again, Keene's headline. But the conversation is a win-win. This isn't adversarial. This isn't one side beating up the other side. This is just a case of people saying, I think I can do it a little better than you can. That's not a bad thing. Obviously, originally, I was pretty strong in selling it just based on some of the issues that have been happening here. But then again, that was before everybody had come together and kind of put their heads together and say, hey, like I said, both sides said, we can make this work. We can improve the situation. And honestly, up until it went to the Finance Committee, we hadn't even been discussing this particular piece of property. 99% of the population of Keene don't even know it's there. And, but that doesn't change the situation. I've kind of leaned in changing my decision here that I think we should allow the citizens an opportunity to improve this grassy area. It's not a park. This is a piece of property that the city happens to own. It's not a park. Let's be clear on that. However, it is a small green space that could be improved or maybe not. So my vote that I'm leaning towards tonight would be for the city to retain it for the time being. And once again, we said as MSFI, we would give the neighbors and the East Side neighbors a chance to put something together. And they have, in a short amount of time. Nothing completely too solid, little thoughts here and there, but I know, having sat on the city, sometimes it takes us a year to figure things out on our own. So to ask citizens to come together and put something totally concrete within 30, 45 days, that's almost impossible, because I know we don't even get it done here sometimes. So my vote tonight will be to retain the property for the time being. It doesn't have to be permanent. I'm not going to say more time. I'm just going to say, let's hang on to the property for now, talk to the neighbors, see if they can come up with a viable solution. And there's nothing that says we can't come back here in 2 or 3 months if nothing's working out and look at it again. But the MSFI committee is the committee of the people. And my opinion is, when we give the people a chance, that's what we do. And that's what my vote will be tonight. Thank you.
Here, here.
Thank you. No. To the city attorney. Where the city currently owns this piece of property, do we need a motion to say to retain? I could see a motion to execute the sale of, but we always like to have a positive motion coming out of committee. I just want to know procedurally where I'm
I hear you,
going.
yeah. Before you asked this question, I was trying to find how this came into you and what the recommendation was, which I believe the original recommendation was to authorize the city manager to sell the property. So you're looking what you would positively recommend as the alternative.
Well, we could come out with a negative recommendation, but
I'd rather you did that for
But-
practice.
but typically,
I'll have to think about it a little bit unless we have another suggestion.
well, you got about
but-
30 seconds.
Great.
I'm sorry.
No, well, you could vote to instruct the city manager to retain 100 Church Street for the time being, something like that.
You said,
Vote to instruct the city manager to retain,
okay.
Yeah.
You got to talk slower. I'm going to need council hearing aids or something. so-
okay.
Okay.
Well, as you remember, back in our early days on council, so we've been here a couple of days or two, city committees used to make recommendations on the fly. We can do this.
I know that, I
But
know
my
that.
point to the city attorney would be, we can make the motion that the city manager be authorized to do. We can also just easily just say, we do not recommend the city manager do things. It's just a matter of which word we put in first. That's all it is. It ain't rocket science.
Thank you for translating. I speak too. Okay, so I'm just going to, what?
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, you may. Of course.
Thanks. One thing I just want to throw out there again is that I know that we've spent a lot of time discussing housing and becoming a community that's focused on housing. And we have a landlord that reached out to us and said that they're having an issue. And I don't think we can become a developer-friendly community if we're not willing to support the property owners when they do develop. So that's just another.
Okay. I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I also know if I had a situation where I was one of my properties concerned about an activity or individuals, I put up a fence or some means of dealing with it. I won't go to the city, but that's me. Okay, so I am going to go with the move to recommend that the city manager be authorized to do all things necessary to negotiate and execute the sale of 100 Church Street, parcel 574-015.
Second.
Motion's been and seconded, and my 2 cents worth is to recommend a negative vote, and I will explain such to the council next Thursday. Any more from the public?
I have a quick question.
Yes. Again, name and address for.
Yes, again, Sarah Allen, 164 Roxbury Street. Is it allowed, like, legally, like, say if I took it upon myself to add a fence around it or a sign that said no, like, are you allowed to do that personally, or is there like a committee, like council, I could go to get permission to do so if like one person, me or another, wanted to take it upon themselves to try and make it a more safe space?
I don't think you could go to public land and put up a fence or signs. You could probably plant sunflowers if you like. But
Right, because I mean, I know there's like I said, there's owl statues there. There's things that people have placed there in honor of my dad. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
could I put up like a sign on the tree that's just like something not like official, but kind of hinting at?
I don't think I want to hear.
Okay.
Do what you want. I didn't hear anything. Public Works will take it down, as long as it's not an election sign, right? We're kind of ready to vote, and is this something new?
You did ask.
Yes.
Well, for me, it's an important question. I didn't quite understand what the motion is. I couldn't quite hear it. It was a little low.
Procedurally, we need a motion. And I'm trying to follow along what I heard as a recommendation back to this committee to deal with. So the motion will be, as it reads, to execute a sale. I take pretty strong guess the vote on that will be to not.
Okay.
But I'm just guessing. So-
And one other quick question about the CIP that Councilor Tobin mentioned. If it was an interest in turning this into an official park and rec park, and there aren't a lot of funds that have to go into it because maybe it doesn't have to be developed or anything more than maintained, would that necessarily mean it goes to the end of the CIP list
No,
in
it
10
does
years?
not.
It sounds like a transfer that could happen soon rather than waiting 10 years. So,
City manager can explain it, but it is not a rotating list. It does not necessarily have to be a $25,000 or more project that waits a period of time. So the city manager can meet with a group or individuals to work out something in the interim, and the interim can be a pretty permanent solution. Yep.
So I would just say that what I heard from Councilor Filio was that we are keeping it for the interim period of time to see what happens.
Yes.
So if that were in fact the case, we wouldn't be planning any substantial changes to the property and expending funds that we might then not benefit from if later you decided to sell it. I would say if the council then comes back and tells me, no, we would like to see this now as a park, we would start the ordinance process to change it over to a park, and then we would start the engagement with the community. And I have seen groups come together in the past and raise funds for something they wanted to see happen before it could make, its turn in the capital planning process, so.
Good?
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion. Anything for the committee, public? All in favor of the motion? That would be none. All opposed? Would be unanimous. So to translate, that means the city is keeping the piece of property.
Next Thursday.
Assuming the council
We're
votes
recommending.
similarly next Thursday. And in the meantime, if you want to plant sunflowers, I'll help you plant them. Sorry, Paul, but, all right. And also, just one other bit of a comment. Lady and gentlemen, I think this is great public involvement in an issue, and it really does make me glad to be MSFI. Finance is either yes or no, but this is good. It's painful. Now, where are we? Bicycles. More pain. Oh, wait a minute, before you speak. I got an email, something about the New York Times
Roundabouts.
picking us up in the New York Times, commending the city of Keene as a roundabout city, mentioning the name of our Public Works Director, who was the city engineer at the time. Good job.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Chair. I will say, I think that's the best photo that's been taken of me since I had hair.
I didn't know.
But the article itself is really about the city and the city's innovation in adopting roundabouts as, partly at least, as a response to climate change, and recognizing the safety benefits, the environmental benefits, air quality benefits, and really highlights how the city was at the cutting edge in early 2000 with pushing this idea of roundabouts forward, even over the objection of NHDOT. So it's really more about the city and the wisdom of decision makers that came before me. So
Oh, you say the city council did something right?
I didn't say that. I said decision makers. No, of
Yes,
course.
please. Now let's talk about bicycles.
Yeah. Let's talk about bicycles. So when last we spoke about the rules for the use of bicycles, and really this is about setting the stage for the use of bicycles in the downtown once the bicycle lanes are constructed. Largely, this will be an ordinance without a lot of effect until those bicycle lanes exist. But the council did want to get these rules in place so people understood them and we could begin the process of public education. And I know Deputy City Manager Rebecca Landry has been thinking and talking with staff about how we're going to communicate that, how we do that education and outreach component. I definitely see some more cute videos with Asa in the future. I could definitely see that happening. So, but that said, the business of tonight is the rules for the use of bicycles on those bicycle lanes. So last we spoke, I had presented a draft ordinance that I thought addressed the gaps between what the Bike Pack Committee had expressed as their desired and what was already sort of codified by state law. And, as I explained, just as a sort of a legal best practice, it's not the best idea to have the city ordinances overlapping or contradicting what's already in state law. So we didn't write it as a comprehensive set of rules because we didn't want to have that overlap with, trying to repeat stuff that is already in the state law. During our previous discussion, the question came up about, well, can we include in this that if you're an e-bike rider, you can ride on the bike lanes downtown. You're just not allowed to actually use the electrical function. You have to actually pedal the bike in the downtown. And you tasked the city attorney with figuring out the answer to that question, and then if so, presenting it as an A version. So that's what's in your packet tonight. There's an A version that would add a provision that says, when operating an electric bicycle within the downtown core zoning district, electronic bicycles may not engage the electric motor.
Would that include scooters? Does it need to be named as such?
I think the way we structured this, bicycles would include,
Should be electric vehicles? No.
if you look in your packet at the A version, the red line version, in addition, the following rules, this is subparagraph B. In addition, the following rules shall apply to the operation of bicycles, unicycles, tricycles, scooters, roller skates, skateboards, or similar devices, including electrically propelled or assisted versions of such devices. So I think because it's a subset of item B, it's already included as all of the above. And I would defer to the city attorney
good
to
idea.
confirm her opinion.
Yes.
I want to clarify scooters, because e-bikes have pedals and have pedal assist, which is what you had originally had asked us to look into, which I'm happy to talk about all my research for. But scooters, I'm imagining, the ones I'm picturing don't really have pedals. So are you asking about whether the don't use your motor applies to a scooter?
Yeah.
You can limit that. So e-bikes are a more specific kind of regulated thing from the state, and the reason I asked for some time to look into this was because of that, and to make sure that you were able to regulate it more specifically. Scooters, you can go to town on. We've got a prohibition on scooters and skateboards and things like that, in addition to e-bikes. If you want to go more specific on scooters, you can. I don't quite understand logistically, because I don't ride a scooter, what you're picturing, though, for what that means.
Well, I think I'd rather see that section 2 say said devices or something of that sort. I have an electric scooter. I can do it, the old-fashioned way by foot, or hit the battery and hit 20 miles an hour.
I would love some direction on how to phrase that, but I would
No, just
also
saying-
point out that there is a mile per hour limit already.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you're looking to stop
I know, but it's the
speed-
same question that.
Right.
An electric device on the bike lane, I think, is a problem. So were you calling out in section 2, electronic bicycles, could you not just say said devices mentioned above?
So if you're correct me if I'm misunderstanding you. If you're saying a scooter, which is either using an engine or you're basically walking it, can't use the motor in the bike path, that effectively is prohibiting them being used other than just like walking it or,
No?
right?
No.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, before there were electronic scooters, scooters were just two wheels and a platform, and you would kick it in a sort of a kicking motion.
There used to be a roller skate on a board. Yes.
And
We had
I think what the
razor
chair is
scooters.
saying is you could kick push your scooter,
Okay,
but not use the electric motor.
I think that's.
thank you.
And I'm not just being silly, I think it's
I
important,
hear you.
so,
Okay,
all right. so
Yes, you can do
no,
that.
let him continue, you think about how to word it or not. 'Cause-
Yeah, I think said devices make sense. Then it's just a reference back to the list of devices that's under Article B. So bicycles, unicycles, tricycles, scooters, roller skates, skateboards, and similar devices.
You want to continue, or should I go to committee, or are you done? Done? I'm sorry.
I was looking for some concurrence from the city attorney.
I want to give her time to think.
Okay, then go to committee.
Jacob?
Thank you, Mr. Tribune. Just real briefly, I had asked the same question about scooters earlier to the city attorney, so I concur with that. I was downtown trying to register my car. I did it successfully on the second attempt. But as I was getting out of my car to come into City Hall, and it really is less the speed that I'm concerned about, and Councilor Filio's talked about this at length, is that, you know, I looked up, I did not hear this electric scooter that should not have been on the sidewalk in the first place coming, right? So if I had looked up a moment later, you know, there could have been a collision there. So I concur with that. I did have a question around the. So when we're talking, I got an email today. I think the rest of the committee did. I think the rest of the committee did as well, from some folks in the community affiliated with Bike Pack, and who I think spend a lot more time on a regular basis interacting with bicycles and devices like that than I do, wanting to make sure that the language here is very clearly applying to, and I think we've had this discussion before, but making sure that we're not prohibiting an electric bike, for example, from being on the road within the downtown core district. And so wanting to make sure that the application here is as specific as we're trying to be. I know that's our intent, but I received a couple emails today with that concern.
Yeah, again, I would refer you, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, I would refer to the language under subparagraph B. The following rules shall apply to the operation of yada, yada, yada on bike lanes and multi-use paths within the city of Keene. So it's intended to apply to the bike lanes that we're going to build downtown, but also multi-use paths.
If I could follow up real briefly, I'm picturing Main Street right now and the kind of green shaded thing with the little bicycle on it that is, I think this is the conversation we've kind of had around what do we call, we're talking about them as bike lanes, right? Are we sure that is referring for the purpose of the ordinance only to the sidewalk grade bike
Yes.
lanes?
Yeah, I'm sorry, ask the question again.
When we say bike lanes, are we sure that excludes roadway bike?
So, no, it would not preclude bike lanes that are designated bike lanes adjacent to the roadway. So, for example, Washington Street has a bike lane. Park Ave out to Summit Road, there's an on-street bike lane. It's striped as a bike lane, but it's not grade separated.
Thank you.
Councilor Workman? You had some.
I'm all set for now.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, I do not get a warm and fuzzy feeling when a meeting starts off with our city engineer and city attorney not on the same page. I don't like winging things when we're not exactly 100% together here. That's fine. It is what it is. It doesn't matter to me at this point anyhow, because as I've stated in the past, I'm not going to agree to this ordinance. I will not agree to any ordinance that allows anything with a motor on the sidewalk or the bike path downtown. I don't care if it's an electric motor or a gas motor. And I'm not talking just about electric bikes. I'm talking about, as Councilor mentioned, the scooters that fly in both directions, or the skateboards. They're just, I think we're creating a problem that we don't have right now. But like I said, I'm being consistent with what I've said in the past. The ordinance, I feel, whether it's this ordinance or any other ordinance, I do not like approving ordinances that are completely unenforceable. The speed part is completely unenforceable. Even if you say don't engage your electric motor, who in the heck's going to monitor that? That's unenforceable. The whole ordinance is unenforceable. I mean, it might look good on paper, but then the part that I have the most problem with is allowing anything with a motor downtown, virtually feet away from pedestrians that are crossing from the car across that lane onto what is going to be designated as the walking part of the sidewalk. So I don't need to dwell on this any longer. I've been pretty clear in the past how I feel about this, but I absolutely will not endorse this ordinance.
Councilor Tobin, you got anything? You don't have to if you don't.
I agree that a lot of this is going to be challenging to enforce. I also think that a lot of our ordinances are challenging to enforce. And they're violated on a regular basis. And I think that, we set them out as guidelines so that if there is a problem, that when someone has a complaint and reports something, that there's that we can do. We can say, oh, no, you weren't allowed. We don't have the capability or resources to monitor every corner of the city, I mean, every corner of the street, I'll say, you know, I get that. So, but I think this has a lot of, I think this makes a lot of good points, and I think it kind of covers the basics. I imagine that over time, it may evolve.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. I was just reviewing an email that we were all sent by a constituent earlier. It sounds like all the other points of the email, of the concerns, were addressed by other counselors in conversation, except for one piece. So only in B1 does it mention downtown core zoning district. So for B5, would we also want to specify downtown corridor or downtown core zoning district for the stops for, except for at a bike rack provided for such a purpose? Because we're only intending to put bike racks in specific areas downtown, not all over the city right now, right?
That's correct.
So we might want to just add that wording in there.
So are we drifting towards a C, or is this still a B? City Attorney?
We have an A, so this would be a B. Yeah,
Okay,
we can do that.
so to make this a B, it would pick up Council Workman's suggestion that Section 5 indicate the downtown core, and my suggestion on 2, the above-mentioned devices. Good?
I
Okay.
have an alternative for you.
Again?
I have an alternative for you, which, for B2, would be, any device with an electric motor may not engage the electric motor within the downtown core zoning district. How's that? For,
Yeah, okay.
all right,
Okay,
we can
good.
do that.
See, I knew, if I gave you a moment to
Sure thing.
think.
Question for the city attorney, does the B version have to go back to full council to be read again for the first time?
I don't
With what's being,
Just double checking.
yeah, I don't, I
B
wouldn't
versions sometimes have to go back. I'm just questioning with the city attorney.
appreciate that. No, I think since we've stayed within the scope of what these rules were proposed, and the language we're adding tonight is not shifting any of that, I think we're good.
Okay.
I would agree. Anyone from the public like to, oh boy, people, yes. And then I'll get back to you,
This is
Jacob.
really just for informational purposes.
time, name and-
Robin Cost, 51 Railroad. Only for informational purposes, for your consideration as you think about bike lanes. There is a growing number of elderly and handicapped people in the city who use wheelchairs that are electrified and scooters that are electrified. And I have here the speeds that they go. Lowest speed is 4 to 6 miles. It can go up to 10 miles. Right now, they use the sidewalk with a lot of interruptions, particularly on the left side of Central Square, for trying to get around. I hope that you will keep some of the ADA thoughts in mind as you look through this, and also keep in mind that if they are sharing the road, that there is a consideration of respect for people who are handicapped using motorized wheelchairs, scooters. Thank you.
Mitch, can I comment to that?
Do you, to the city attorney, working tonight, should there be a section 6 to say in no way shall any of these conditions apply to wheelchairs and handicap things,
I
devices?
think what Don has to say too, but because these rules are going to apply to the devices that we've identified only, as like
Good.
that's regulating, and I also don't think it's contemplated that, you know, the bike paths are intended for traveling of pedestrians or anyone in a wheelchair, so regulating them is probably not necessary. If you want to throw something in, we could, but I don't believe it's necessary.
Good, done. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I was just going to add to that, the provisions in the city code that say you can't ride a bicycle or a scooter on the sidewalks in the downtown already have a exception for mobility devices.
Right.
So
Good.
scooters, mobility devices, they are allowed to use the sidewalks throughout the downtown, and that's not being proposed to be changed by the ordinance.
Got it. Just want to get it right.
I just wanted to point that out, that no matter what would come out, emergency, medical devices that are electronically assisted would be exempt from any of that. I just want to make that clear.
Good, okay. Yes, ma'am.
Hi.
Good evening.
Linda Sterling, Jordan Road, Keene, New Hampshire. My husband Jim retired and started regular biking for health, fun, and exploring. I was working as a Keene classroom teacher, not retired yet. Now I'm retired teacher, ready to join my husband on his bike rides. I can use an electric bike, and now we can bike together. So I brought my electric bike.
Visual aids.
Visual aids, because I've heard so much about electric bikes in these past years. So there's my bike.
Only at MSFI.
That's right. So here's my electric bike. We got it at Norm's, shop local. And it turns on by the battery here. And then I have this thing, and there's a screen, so you can do different speeds. And it goes 0, which is just pedal, 1, 2, and I think it goes to 4, but honestly, when I ride, I do 0, 1, and 2. And we go up towards Gilsum along the highway, and we ride, and we bring them to Maine, we go there, so it's been really wonderful. So the downtown project finally, after all the meetings we also attended, said yes to bike lanes, and just like the rest of Europe has. And I've been listening to people on the radio and in city council meetings and in the Sentinel calling me an electric bike owner and rider, a speed demon, a silent danger to everyone who has never tried a bike lane, zooming along Main Street and knocking over walkers and colliding with cars. Oh, an accident waiting to happen. So I'm pretty sure I can speak for electric bike riders and regular bicycle riders. I sure don't want this to happen. We're not reckless like media outlets say we are. Cars can go 55 miles down Main Street, and they weigh thousands of pounds, but they don't. Why? Common sense. And as a Keene, born and raised person, we know this. Follow the rules. I don't want to crash. I don't want to fall. Main Street's a special place for all of us to move safely together. We need to try bike lanes. It's not an original idea. Keene's not coming up with the concept. Electric bicycles need to be a part of it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. I'm going to leave it here. No, I shouldn't.
Might take you for a ride.
Okay, someone else? Yes, sir.
Jim Sterling, 197 Jordan Road, I'm with her. I'm happy to hear that it looks like we'll have bike lanes and bike lanes with allowing, if I've got it correct, electric bikes, but just not with their electric motor. Is that correct?
Not turned on.
That's great. I was actually going to suggest that. But I want to say this. There's so many people, I listen to talk radio, I come to meetings, and they have so much apprehension about these bikes. And, you know, I ride a regular bike all the time, and I'm just trying to think, where are these people seeing these demon riders. You know, sometimes you see a person go really fast. It's on the outside, not inside here, downtown. It's outside. Just like cars. They go a little faster. That same person isn't necessarily going to go and scoot the same speed, 20 miles an hour, down a bike lane. Just like cars don't. It's the same principle. I was listening to talk radio one time, local, and a lady was having a hard time understanding bike lanes, and she was afraid that when she got out of her car and stepped onto the curb, was she going to get run over? Now, I understand the anxiety, but I tried to picture that. I'm stepping on the curb. There's a 7-foot bike lane right there. There's no bushes. It sounded like she was popping out of the bushes into the middle of a bike lane. Just like a street. You look. And then that's it. That same lady has absolutely no problem walking across the street through 2 lanes of oncoming traffic of 2,000-pound cars at 25 to 35 miles an hour. That same person has no problem backing out from a parking lot into oncoming traffic. That same person also goes up on the bypass driving 40, 50, 60 miles an hour with large cars coming by within 8 feet with only a yellow line in between. And then it dawned on me, because they're used to it. They're acclimated to it. There's so many things we do, you know, with risks, but we're acclimated. We watch our kids play baseball, football, lacrosse, ice hockey. I think the anxieties that people have are exaggerated. And I can understand that because they haven't seen it. Once they see bike lanes, they'll become acclimated. My wife and I went on a river cruise in Europe. That was very nice. And each stop, and everybody there was 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old. And on every tour, they had e-bike tours. And they were always booked up. Every town we went through, big towns, small towns, we rode their bike lanes. And they included electric bikes, turned on. No problems. These these river cruises are run by billion-dollar companies. They do risk assessments. If there was some of the serious problems that I hear from people, they wouldn't have them. You know, they don't do bungee jumping. So I'm just trying to say, I think once we get going, people will start to have something to look at and they'll become acclimated. Because we do not want to lose the electric bikes being able to come downtown. It's the fastest growing transportation system for people that are 40, 50, 60, 70 years old. Those people have money to spend. And God knows, using a bike rack to park a bike is better than using a parking space. I know Randy fought so hard for parking spaces, parking spaces, parking spaces. Well, you got your parking spaces.
That was me, but that's all right.
Okay. You know, what's interesting is that mythical parking garage we're going to have someday. That's $14 million. I mean, I know it's never going to be built, but it's supposed to hold 400 cars. So I just did the math and realized one parking space costs $30,000. A nice commercial bike rack that holds 5 bikes is $500. If you do the math, that's 300 spaces for the price of one parking garage. Don't we want more people to be using bikes? Don't we want people to be utilizing, you know, not utilizing all our parking? Don't we want less cars coming? Do we want to like block out 40, 50, 60, 70-year-olds that really want to come down here and spend money? I'm just saying. Anyway, That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Parking spaces.
Jim, I'll tell you, you made Council Williams smile. Oh, hi, Bobby.
Hi, surprised to see me? Bobby Williams, City Councilor, Ward 2, 66 North Lincoln Street. I want to follow on to what somebody said earlier about mobility devices. That's really, in many cases, what these are. You could have an e-bike. Well, I know an elderly lady who rides an e-bike that's also a tricycle. I don't think it would count as a scooter under this definition, but she uses it to get around because it's much easier than powering a real bike would. And are we going to say that she now needs to ride in the street? Because she already rides in the street, and it scares me. It's not safe to ride in the street as an e-bike rider. I do it all the time. On Main Street, it's not great. If there were bike lanes and a 10-mile-an-hour speed limit, I would ride the 10-mile-an-hour speed limit on the bike lanes. If there's no motorization, though, I'm back out in the street because my bike is very heavy to pedal, and if I want to move at any pace at all, even get up to 10 miles an hour, I've got to crank that thing. Another thing that concerns me is, this really is unenforceable, because someone who's just looking can't tell if a motor is engaged or not. When I pedal, the motor is automatically engaged unless I switch it to 0. I usually keep it at 1. I like having the throttle there in case I need to accelerate quickly to get out of danger. That's one of the safest things about e-bikes is that you can get out of the way of a car really quickly. And I think e-bikes are a great option for kids, for teenagers. When I was a kid, my parents had me drive in an extra car they had, and I was very fortunate to be able to do that. Cars today are extremely expensive. I convinced my kid that he'd be happier on an e-bike, and I saved myself a whole bunch of money. So he was commuting to high school from the east side for 2 years on an e-bike. And that was great, except, he never rode on Main Street. He found himself stuck on West Street a couple times and was terrified. We don't necessarily have great infrastructure here. We need to understand that, some of these people we're going to be forcing out in the street are 16 years old. Some are 80 years old. We are investing all of this in new infrastructure to make bikes and bicycle transportation safer in Keene, and to suddenly say, this whole category of electric bikes, electric scooters, all of that's going to go into the street. We're losing all of our safety benefits right there, because it really is the fastest growing mode of transportation, mode of green transportation, I might add. That's an affordable option for a lot of people, and we need to encourage it, not discourage it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to address the committee? Or committee, any words before a motion? Counselor?
If I just could real briefly ask a question of the city manager that is around this enforcement issue. So I was listening to the City of Keene in Focus podcast, either 2 or 3 podcasts ago. I listened. And I heard this enforcement question came up, and it's been raised by this committee repeatedly. You talked about a KPD position we have that's seasonal in the summer for downtown foot patrols, and that's not going to solve all of the problems that could ever come up with bike lanes downtown or any problems downtown. But I wonder if you could share that a little bit for some additional context around what even partial enforcement could look like.
Sure. So we've been fortunate for the last several years. We have someone who doesn't work for us anymore in a full-time capacity. He comes back every year and works in the summertime, either walking or biking downtown and our multi-use trails. And so that's been a huge benefit for us. And I don't expect he'll be taking radar, but I do think that he will be looking for people who are acting badly, who it's very obvious that they're acting badly, and helping to enforce the ordinance when he can. It's true. This is going to be challenging. We may not know that their motor is engaged. We won't know if they're going over 10 miles an hour, but we will know if they are acting badly. And the ordinance does give us a tool to use when that's the case.
You raise a question. A non-motor powered bicycle can surely do more than 10 miles an hour. So if someone is acting badly, I think I heard it's a violation. And this individual says, okay, and here's what happens. How much? Or what happens?
You mean how much is a fine for violation?
Yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head. That would be a KPD question.
Should that be
probably.
in the ordinance?
So violation and their fines are controlled by RSA. When we label something as a misdemeanor or a violation, RSA 650 in the whole criminal code parks what happens for those types of violations and crimes.
Okay. So I'm wondering if we are voting this as an A version, might I want to turn it into a B version when you get the answer to section 6 of what the violations or whatnot would be?
Maybe to clarify my question, I don't know that you can control what the fine would be that is set by statute. So it would already be a fine. I can come back and tell you what it is in statute, but it wouldn't be something I'd recommend we put into the code.
Okay, for Thursday, if you could.
Yeah.
I think that's an important question. So, you had something? Yeah, Council Workman, or not? Elsa? What?
I forget, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know one of them.
Anyone else in the public have anything to add, committee? So we are speaking about what is now known as 2025-33A. B? B?
It will become a B.
Okay, are you all clear on what the changes are and whatnot? Okay. All in favor of the motion made? Thank you. Thanks, Randy.
I move to recommend the adoption of ordinance O-2025-33-B.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Anything further from the public, committee? All in favor? It would be 4, and opposed, 1.
I just wanted to thank you for giving us the time to look into this. I know putting things on more time, nobody appreciates, but I had asked for that. I and the Public Works Director work very hard to get questions answered for you when they come up at meetings or anticipate what information you might need. So thank you for your patience and giving us that time to look into things for you.
Thank you. You're welcome. And if I had thought of the question sooner, or committee, if you think a question sooner before a meeting, that probably is more helpful. Okay, so where are we? Item 3, downtown infrastructure. This is meeting number
80.
80, discussing said downtown infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 3 on your agenda. We're making progress. A few things to update you on this month. The first thing I wanted to mention, just so hopefully it'll help get the message out, a while back, I had sent letters to all of the property owners that have parcels abutting this project. That letter sort of invited the property owners to get in touch with us and to coordinate certain things that could happen on their property that aren't public expenses. It's not work that we're going to do, but we could help facilitate and hopefully make a more uniform, seamless integration. Specifically, we mentioned accessibility improvements. If their current building entrance doesn't meet the Americans with Disabilities Act, and we could help facilitate that improvement. We can't do work on private property. We can't build ramps on their property and whatnot. But if they say, hey, if you can bring the sidewalk elevation up 2 inches, then I can make this ramp work and meet the ADA. We're happy to try to accommodate those sorts of improvements and coordinate that with the property owners. The second item was with regard to storm drainage connections for roof drains. We're planning to basically add a stub for roof drains for any property that has, frontage on the project. And what I said in the letter is, we'll bring the stub for future roof drain replumbing, if you're gonna replumb your building, to the building face. If it works out better to have it in this corner of the building versus that corner of the building or what have you, let us know so we can put it in the right spot so it facilitates your connection to it. And then the third thing was with respect to the utility connections themselves, water and sewer. We've said right along, for all of our infrastructure projects, when we're doing this sort of big, massive infrastructure, we don't want to leave old service connections in the ground that we know where they're going to fail in the next 3 to 5 years or what have you, and then have the property owner have to dig up city sidewalks and whatnot. So even though it's by code, it's a property owner's responsibility to replace the sewer main from the sewer service line from the main to the building face, and the water main, water service connection from the valve to the building. We're going to do up to the building as part of the project, or further south along the project, where the buildings are set back, we'll replace up to the property line as part of this project. So it'll save you the effort of having to dig up city infrastructure later on. What we said in the letter is, if you wanted to go to the next step and take that service line through your foundation and right up to the meter, so the entire service line it's uniform, there's no connections, what have you, we're happy to coordinate that. What we're going to do is we're going to have a plumber under contract as part of this project. They will give you a quote to do the work inside your building. Any changes that need to make inside the building, we'll share that quote with you. If you approve the work, we'll tell them to do it, we'll pay them, and then we'll get reimbursed from the property owner. So those sorts of coordinations we're happy to do. To date, unfortunately, no property owners have responded to that and indicated that they want to coordinate. So I want to just put that back out there to say, hey, the opportunity is still available, though it's closing rapidly. If there's anything that we can help you facilitate on your property, please get in touch with either myself or my staff, and we'll try to help you do that. So that's the first item. The second one, questions.
Don, I have a quick question on that with the pipes coming out of the buildings. Obviously, downtown Keene, a lot of these buildings are made or built in various different eras.
Yep.
And those pipes are probably laid out in different eras coming out of the buildings. Now, the multiple pipes coming out of these buildings, I assume, are probably going to be different sizes, different materials, depending on the building. Is it going to be when the sidewalk comes up and we look that we find out what size pipe we need to make an adapter for? This is not going to be a one-size-fit-all adapter for all these pipes, correct?
That is absolutely true. Different materials have different adapters that are needed. Our records show what the size of the pipe is today. And we have been in the basements of all of these buildings, so we know if it's a 6-inch sewer line or an 8-inch sewer line. I'm not going to rule out the possibility that, we're going to find it somewhere under the underground. It went from a 6-inch line to a 4-inch connection at the main. That's what we're going to have surprises during construction. That said, I think that the heart of your question is really making the new infrastructure connect to the old infrastructure. Luckily, the fittings that we use for that purpose anticipate a range of sizes. So there are a number of different fittings that we'll have available and in stock. Contractors responsible for having all of the different parts and pieces and fittings and adapters to make that connection when it happens.
Okay. Thank you.
The next item that I wanted to talk about was arborists. This question has come up repeatedly during the design process, and it's sort of been presented as almost a concern that the design didn't involve the work of qualified arborists when talking about the trees downtown. So I just wanted to kind of report that out and hopefully set the record straight. Before the design was really advanced at all, before preliminary design, Stantec had as part of their project, their scope of work, to have an arborist. We used Bartlett Tree Consultants, come in and do a comprehensive tree inventory and assessment. You saw the results of that assessment in the preliminary design work product, where the trees were actually color-coded with pink, yellow, green trees. Again, apologies to members of the public that may not have been able to appreciate that color coding, but the color coding indicated the health of the tree, and we used that information to sort of inform which trees we really tried to work around and accommodate to stay in place, and which trees I'll say we're less worried about having to remove. Trees that were in poor health and likely to have to be replaced anyway, we didn't put a whole lot of effort into saving. Trees that were deemed as high-value trees, which was a lot of the trees here on Central Square, obviously we tried very, very diligently to not have to touch those. And there are some design quirks. If you look at the plan and you say, well, why is that landscaped island there? The answer is probably because we were trying to save a high-value tree. So that was done by a licensed arborist, or I think it's more of a certification than a licensed, but a qualified arborist, I'll say. Once that preliminary design was done and we knew which trees we were saving, which ones were going to be preserved, but also which ones we were planning to replace, what species we were talking about, where we were planting them, where we were using the tree wells, the silva cells as we've called them. Those plans were reviewed again by Bartlett Tree Consultants, so another arborist reviewed those plans. We also met with folks from Keene State College, basically the forestry folks that take care of all of the trees on Keene State. We met with them, we sat down with them, we gave them a set of our plans, let them look them over and give us their comments, and they did have some comments that we incorporated into the final design. That recommendation actually came from our mayor, who obviously had some contacts there at the college. So that was actually very helpful, and they gave us some good insights. So I just want to be clear that arborists have been involved with the design of this project from the very get-go, from deciding what's healthy downtown today to deciding what species we're going to be planting with this project and how we're going to make sure that they're healthy when they're planted. So, okay. The next item on my list here is unfortunately not a great bit of news. Yeah, we're doing so good. So recently came to our attention that the NHDES review, so recall that we have clean water SRF funding for the sewer and stormwater components of the project. We also have drinking water SRF funding for the drinking water portion of the project, the potable water. And the drinking water is certainly the more significant piece of it. We have about $2 million worth of funding from the state to help offset the cost of the drinking water. Came to our attention recently that their technical review as part of their process is going to end up delaying our advertisement date. So as you know, we had planned on advertising the end of October. We were getting ready to do that. About a month ago, our DES project manager said, hey, what's the status of this technical review? To which Stantec reported, well, this technical review was submitted to DES in January, and we responded to their request for more information in March, and in April, their online portal indicated that the technical review was closed. So you tell us. We thought we'd satisfied that requirement. So she said, okay, well, let me check. And she went and talked to the technical reviewers. What the explanation we got from DES staff was the technical review was inadvertently terminated in April. And that they had somehow come to the believe that the project was being rescoped, so they suspended their review of the water and sewer and drainage components of the project. I haven't really gotten a satisfactory answer to why they thought that. My guess, if I had to guess, is they heard from us that The project wasn't being advertised for construction in 2025. The city council had made a decision to postpone it the year. I think that they made an assumption that that delay was because the design was being relooked at or was being rescoped. So they just decided to stop until they got a new updated design. I don't know that that's the case, but that's my assumption at this point, and I hope to find out a little bit more. But for whatever reason, in April, they suspended their review, and where we thought that disappearing from their list, being closed out, meant that we were done, really, apparently it meant that they just stopped looking at it. So they are expediting the conclusion of that review based on the plans that we've already submitted. We are going ahead with all the notification requirements that they have. And I did talk to DES staff today when I got this information, and I said, can we go ahead with the advertisement and just not award the contract pending your final process? She said, no, we cannot advertise the construction until we have a final determination from DES staff signed by the commissioner that says this project has met all of the environmental requirements. So what that means is there's going to be a delay in the advertisement. As we sit here tonight, I can't tell you with any kind of certainty what that delay was going to be. I think it's probably at least 4 weeks, probably more than that. But honestly, I just don't know how long that's going to take. So not what I was hoping to tell you tonight. I was hoping to tell you that the contract will be advertised on Thursday and we're off to the races. Unfortunately, that's where we're at. Okay.
And I'm sure you're going to tell me that this was not something that Stantec should have been on top of.
No, I was a little upset this afternoon when I got this news, to be honest. And that was the first question I asked Stantec is, how the hell did we miss this?
What else are we going to miss?
Well,
or what else is there potential to miss?
Then I got the explanation, and they showed where they had submitted it to the regulatory agency in January. They had provided more information per the RFMI, the request for more information. They responded to that in March. And in April, they got this information that it was closed out on the online portal. So, maybe they could have checked up to make sure that assumption, that closure meant that everything was hunky-dory. But I think they made a reasonable assumption that they responded to the request. They didn't get any more requests. It showed as closed, and they thought that they were done with that process.
Yeah.
Understood. I understand.
Yeah, Jacob.
A quick question on that, Mr. Chair, if I could, just because I don't have any sense of what the typical DES review logistics looks like. Was it just a matter of Stantec went on the portal and looked and thought it was good? I mean, was there no communication from DES that, hey, you're good? I mean, that would have sent up a red flag for me.
Yeah, honestly, like I said, I haven't gotten a very satisfactory answer of how that's fell through the cracks. That's what I've pieced together so far.
Thank you.
Well, better now than 4 weeks from now. We're still within the timeline of bidding appropriately.
Typically, we're not putting projects out to bid until January, February, March timeframe. So we're still well in advance of that. We had hoped to have this contractor, awarded by the end of the year and then be using that January, February, March timeframe to sort out real fine details, construction schedules, those sorts of things. It will shrink that amount of time that we have to work out those details.
Yeah.
Because we always know what happens when assuming happens, and I'm certainly not blaming anybody in the city, but I think the last 2 times we've heard back from something major from Stantec, it hasn't been good news. I'm hoping, and this isn't a finger point, but, it's us that are on the hook for this. And I'm hoping that Stantec or whoever else starts going back and looking at every dotted I and every crossed T and make sure they are dotted and they are crossed. This isn't acceptable. And once again, it's not a blame on your part, but for this committee, you know, I mean, obviously, we've been on this for 4 years now, and to come out to the 11th hour and 59th minute and say, oops, they screwed up. It's just not acceptable. But once again, I'm not blaming city, but every time somebody comes back from Stantec lately, it's not good news. So, you know, that's just my 2 cents on it, and hopefully this doesn't delay the bidding process enough or delays another construction season. But that's just my
I don't
comments
think
on
we're
it.
there yet.
Thank you.
Okay. Onward.
Okay, that's the worst of what I have to say. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, I sent members of the council an email mentioning that we had planned to use a alternative barricade system as part of the Pumpkin Fest closure. If you were at the Pumpkin Fest, you might have noticed that there were no alternative barricades. The trucks were in place. So I wanted to explain that a little bit. We had seen these barricades. I actually talked to the vendor when I was at the Public Works Expo back in August. And the product looked very interesting. I thought it would be a good compromise between the cost prohibitive installed bollards that we had talked about earlier in the design process, where there was a desire by some of the business owners to have something a little more aesthetically pleasing than giant trucks and Jersey barriers parked out in front of their businesses all day. And we had looked at something very elegant, but also very expensive. And I said at that time, I couldn't in good conscience recommend that was a prudent use of city funds. This alternative was basically steel structures on wheels, but they were designed so that when they were hit by a vehicle, they would tip over and basically lift the vehicle off the ground. They were chained together, so some of the videos online, and if you got a chance to check them out, pretty cool actually, the way the system works. So we arranged for a rental for Washington and Roxbury to test out the system, see how it was for our guys to actually deploy it. Was it as easy as they were saying it was? Make sure that the police were comfortable that they were as secure as they were saying they were and whatnot. And we're, based on our findings and our evaluation, we were going to come forward to the city council with a recommendation to move forward with that as an alternative system. After I'd arranged the rental, they came back and finally gave me the quote for a full system, what it would cost to replace our existing system of Jersey barriers and trucks with these mobile barricades. I had to read the number 3 times before I understood what I was reading. The quote was actually for $1,048,000 for a full system, and it absolutely blew me away. So I looked at that, caught my breath, and immediately called the city manager, and I said, I don't see why it makes any sense to go forward with a rental, show the community something that they might fall in love with, only to say, oh, by the way, you can't afford this nice shiny thing. So that's why we kind of made the decision at the 11th hour to cancel that rental, and that's why you didn't see them during the Pumpkin Fest. I was shocked to learn that they were more expensive than what I thought was the Cadillac option. So, any questions on that?
Thank you.
Okay.
Good news, please. Good news.
I do have a good news, and I'm happy to end with it. So you'll recall that Railroad Square and the bike lane, as we come off of Main Street to the west side between Margaritas and the Transportation Center, is proposed to have these catenary lights. And we talked about the style of lighting and cages and whatnot. But the catenary lights are overhead lighting. They're decorative lighting that I think is going to look amazing. But we don't own the buildings to the south side of the project limits, so the plan was that we would support those catenary lightings with poles. I spoke with both of the property owners that are adjacent, and both of the property owners are amenable to having us attach those wires to the buildings, adjacent buildings. You know, and they
Chair, I
get
have to call a
some,
point of order. And are you on item number 4?
I am on item number 3. I'm introducing item number 4.
Because we haven't got a motion on item number 3 yet.
We're still in 3.
Okay, just
We're
want to make
still
sure
on
we're still
item
on
number
3.
3.
Okay, thank you.
I'm setting up item number 4.
Oh, okay, we're rolling?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Sorry for delay.
mostly because I was desperate for some good news as part of my update. So both of those property owners are interested in having them attached. I think they get something out of it. You know, they get a cleaner installation, no poles adjacent to their building and whatnot. And it will be a very, very nice feature once it's done. So further on in the agenda, there is an item that would authorize the city manager to enter into agreements for that. Next on the downtown update, just quick notes that the selection committee, the team that went about, interviewed consultants that will actually oversee the construction next year, has gone through the qualifications-based selection process. The city engineer will be in front of FOP tomorrow night with a recommendation to award that contract. So I will not try to steal his thunder, just to know that that process is moving forward, and we will have that consultant under contract in advance of having the contract formed, so they will be on board from the beginning. And then finally, status on the solar pavilion project. As you know, we got a grant to build that's solar shade structure. It'll hold the solar power. It'll also provide shade for things like the farmer's market, food truck festivals, that sort of thing, and parking when it's not in use. Again, we went through a qualifications-based selection process. It is a requirement when you're spending federal funds. We have selected a most qualified vendor, and we're in the process of negotiating a scope and fee with that consultant right now. That contract will be most likely coming to FOP the next cycle, the first cycle in February. We aren't ready to present it at this point, but that is moving forward. That contract anticipates design through next year with construction in 27. So is moving forward. And now I will turn it over to my friend and colleague, George, to give you an update from the Office of the Ombudsman.
Thank you. So I guess the first order of business is, I think most of you know, I've been holding walk-in hours at the Colonial Lobby twice a week for the last 2 months. The original agreement for that was to run through the end of October, and we would revisit, myself and Dawn and the director of the Colonial. It's really been kind of a low interest. During the rainstorm on Monday, I got nobody. But other than that, I get, maybe 2 or 3 people. And I just don't feel like it's a profitable use of my time. Since I'm just an hourly employee, I want to be conscious of using my time helpfully for the city. And it's probably not a good use of the Colonial staff's time to, let me in and set me up and whatnot. So we will be finishing at the end of October, so I'll be there tomorrow morning, also Monday afternoon, and then next Thursday morning. And then we'll stop that particular phase for the winter and revisit in the spring whether I should have walk-in hours somewhere downtown as we get closer to actually digging ground and interest gets a little stronger. I think my time is probably better used just actually moving around door to door, introducing myself and meeting people face to face. What I'm seeing for concerns right now is people are starting to ask less, are we really doing this? I think there's a level of acceptance on that, finally, and more, what is the detailed schedule going to look like? And as you've just heard, I can't really answer that question yet. I can give the same information that Dawn just gave you. We know roughly when we'll be able to put it out to bid. Once we have a contractor lined up, then we'll be able to start giving you detailed phasing information. That's what the business owners are looking for now. When is their section of the street going to be shut down? When is their water going to be shut off? Which that probably won't be known until much closer to it happening. Other than that, there's still a misperception among a significant number of downtown owners that there will be no parking downtown for the duration of the project. That's obviously never been contemplated. It's always been, with the compacted schedule, we're talking about 2 blocks at a time, give or take. And it'll be known well in advance which blocks will be shut down when. So we're grappling now with how to make sure people understand that there will still be the majority of the parking available through the duration of the project. People will still be able to come downtown, park downtown. Certainly the videos being put out by ASA showing how long it takes to get from point A to point B are helpful as well. I can say the commercial street lot is criminally underused. That's frequently where I park when I'm downtown, and often there's 2 other cars in that lot, morning, afternoon, into the early evening, with the exception of when there's a colonial show. Then everything is full. But other than that, there's always parking in those areas. And then just traffic flow during the project, kind of the same misconception as the parking. People think there'll just be no cars allowed. And of course, the contract documents say that basically there's going to be at least 1 lane in both directions at all times, with a couple of exceptions when a whole section of the street has to be done. So I'm working to get that information out face to face, and I've been talking with the communications department over here over how we address letting more people know that that's happening. And on that, a big thank you to Rebecca and Asa and their department. I'm getting a lot of positive feedback downtown from the little snippets that they've been putting out, the parking ones, the ones about the trees. They did a nice one showing Central Square now versus what Central Square is going to look like. That's been really helpful. I think a lot of people are still picturing one of the 3 or 4 other alternatives you all looked at. So getting that information out there has been helpful, and people really are seeing, they are getting engagement on that. We're going to update the frequently asked questions page on the website. If you've been there recently, that hasn't been updated in about 18 months at this point. So rough draft has gone over to Dawn and to Rebecca. They've both reviewed that, and I'm working on the final changes on that. That should be up fairly soon. And we're working on a downtown business binder. We're going to be handing those out. I will be walking around downtown and handing those out to every storefront downtown. It'll have contact information, shots of what the actual project will look like when it's finished, detailed phasing. Initially, when it goes out, obviously, it'll just have phase 1 and 2 because we don't have the detailed phasing yet. But there'll be 3-ring binders. I'll be able to bring around updates as the project changes and as more details come out. And we're also hopefully going to have some information from the Revitalized Downtown Group on some business initiatives. Obviously, the city can't promote those directly, but because it's a 3-ring binder, I can bring that information around for the merchants that are working on that and share that with everybody to have and to access. What am I missing? Kind of the challenges I'm facing, the upcoming schedule. It has taken a lot longer to get through downtown than I expected it to on the door-to-door phase. And that is because just about everybody that's in when I get to their business wants to talk for a good half hour, 45 minutes. They've got a lot of questions for me. I need information from them, obviously. So it's just a time-consuming process. Anybody that's reached out and said, hey, you haven't gotten to me yet, I've gotten to them usually within the next day. I know one person used the chain of going to a counselor who went to the city manager, who went to Don Lucier, who came to me. You can just reach out to me directly. It's a lot faster, but I got to them too. So if I haven't gotten to you yet, it's just because it's been time consuming. And I am going to have to change. I think I've been mostly doing this during what you would call traditional office hours. And in particularly for restaurants and for some of the salons, those hours really aren't convenient for them. So I'm going to have to look at least one evening a week that I can make myself available and get to those people that I've been missing otherwise. I think that's all I have, unless you guys have questions for me.
Well, a question. About how many hours a week are you making your house calls?
That's a tricky question. So I am hired for 20 to 25 hours a week. I also have some desk time that I have to put in. As I said, I'm working on the binder content, the frequently asked questions content, and I also am trying to build a database with all of the information that we're collecting from the businesses. So I would say I am actually going door to door downtown 10 to 15 hours a week. And the other 5 to 10 I've been spending at my desk. I'm trying to balance one way or the other. I think I need to do more time on the street before it gets cold and snowy. So I may be downtown more frequently over the next couple of weeks.
The cold and snowy, don't worry about it. Yeah, you'll have to deal with it. Sitting in the Colonial Theater, I think that's a waste of time.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be helpful. I thought people would want a chance to come and find me, and that really hasn't been the case, so we won't keep going.
And I want to hear one of my tenants tell me that, oh, he was in, and we had this conversation. So far, I haven't heard that. So maybe you've been on other blocks. We have a downtown merchant. Maybe she'll have a story to tell. Maybe she'll just sit here and, yeah. Okay.
And then Laura. I agree. I'm not telling you how to do your job, but I'm going to kind of offer some suggestions. I know a lot of the business owners are really eager to meet you, and I've been hearing that you're still rather elusive, or that they have not gotten the chance to meet you yet, or you haven't popped into their business establishment. Maybe with one of those suggestions, and I know, like, you walk into a business and people have your attention, they want that one-on-one, but maybe just framing those first meetings as just a quick meet and greet, and then scheduling a longer meeting to, like, answer questions or invite them to your open office hours, just so that you can at least get the introduction parts down, so that all the business owners can put a face to the name and know that you exist. I think that would at least help us as counselors to be able to really encourage folks that, like, to ease those anxieties that folks have. Thank you.
Counselor.
One question I had was, I guess, were the hours posted somewhere? I know you mentioned them one time, but I couldn't remember what they were. So is it posted on their website somewhere what the office hours were, or?
Is it Rebecca or Andrea? Andrea sent out. So the administrative assistant over at Public Works sent that out over the e-blast system to anybody who had asked for information either from Public Works or specifically about the downtown project. And it also was mentioned on one of the radio broadcasts.
Okay. Can I ask one more? The other question I have, and I mean, this maybe just to see it feels a little bit early to be asking this question, but it's the thing I think about in terms of when we start construction, talking about restaurants. A lot of times there are certain days that they have their food delivered, and they're only here for, it needs to be deliveries on a Tuesday and Thursday or something like that. And a lot of those schedules may need to be set up fairly early. So I just want to make sure that that's kind of part of the conversation somewhere. I'm just planting that.
Yeah, absolutely. What I collect from them, and this is the shorter part of the meeting, usually only takes me 5 or 10 minutes to get the information, but I want the primary contact, which isn't always the owner, as well as the owner's name and their contact information. Hours of operation when they're open, and when their busiest hours are, where their deliveries come, and the majority of them, as you know, come right on Main Street. Some businesses have back or side entrances, so I'd record those when they do, and when their known deliveries happen. And that's the information that I have to go back to the office and put into a database and make it in some way searchable. But the hope is that we'll know, for example, this establishment always gets a delivery Tuesday afternoon. So we will not have Tuesday afternoon be the day that's the day that we're pulling up your water pipe and making your new connection and you can't get to your front door that day. But yeah, we're already trying to collect that, so we know that in advance.
Counselor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just really quickly, I know that there are some conversations happening right now around what the kind of the future of festivals looks like through this construction this seasons. Is that something that the ombuds have been joining protocol meetings or working with staff on that? I think that any opportunity to be immersed in some of these downtown conversations, even if it's not directly about, liaising around construction schedules with business owners, is probably a positive and a way to get in front of some different people.
So I haven't asked George to attend the protocol meetings with the event sponsors. We have shown him the graphics for different alternative event footprints for next year. So he'll have those to discuss with property owners if it comes up. I don't want to put him in a position where he's negotiating with event sponsors for what the event footprint should look like. But I do want him to be aware of what the sort of guidelines are going to be.
Yeah, I think that applies in larger terms too, not just for the event pictures. There are a lot of behind-the-scene meetings about various downtown things as we go into this project that Public Works has to navigate, that the clerk's office downstairs has to navigate. It's probably not a profitable use of my time to sit in on all of those meetings, and we really don't want to blur that line. I'm not a city employee in those terms. I'm not. I think I talked about this last time. I'm not a decider, obviously. I'm not really here to defend the project. I am here to explain the project to people. So we're trying not to blur that line by having me sit in on all of the negotiations type meetings. But Dawn and Brian Ruoff make an effort to keep me up to date on any of the decisions that come out of that and any of the information that I need to share with folks downtown.
Anyone in the audience want to address a comment, question, or something? I'm happy to see a downtown merchant present. Yes.
Hello, I think a lot of you know me, Roberta Mastrogiovanni. I own Corner News. I think I just want to say that my general manager has met the liaison, and we've gotten a tad bit of information. Tonight, I was a little surprised with Dawn explaining about the connections and how that deadline is approaching. That I didn't know about. I was emailed, I think, from your office.
It would have been a hard copy letter.
But I was hoping to meet with your office at some point. So I think there was an initial attempt to meet with me, but it never came about. So I would just encourage both our new liaison and Dawn's office to follow through with all the communications that are necessary. Because I think it's odd that not one property owner responded to the connection issue. And I know I'm definitely interested in talking further about that. And we look forward to talking to you more, George. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to join us? Okay, committee, anything? Motion to accept the reporter's information.
So moved.
Second.
And seconded. Anything further, public committee, all in favor? Done. Unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Catenary lights.
Item number 4 should be quick. I've
Good.
already kind of teed it up. This would be authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute basically license agreements, but license agreements where the city is the licensee and the adjacent property owners are the licensors. I believe that's right. Basically, they're giving us permission to attach our infrastructure to their buildings. It would be a revocable license, so if they ever decide, hey, I don't want that wire there anymore, then we would have to honor that and get it off of their property. The lease would, or the license would spell out a period of time where we have to plan and put in a pole to support the wires and whatnot. Important to note, we are not asking them to pay for the electricity or to pay for the maintenance and upkeep of these lighting systems. It's city property, city responsibility. We're just attaching it to their building to be a more aesthetic installation.
I thought the catenary lights were for Church Street, Lamson Street. I didn't know that they were in front of,
Yeah, the project only, right now, includes them, Railroad Square and the bike lane between the Transportation Center and Margaritas, that first 100 feet or so.
so it attaches to the building. Are you setting up a pole to hook on the other side? I'm not visualizing this.
Over the bike lane, we're just gonna be using the Transportation Center on the other side. We own that, obviously, so it'll bounce from Margaritas to the Transportation Center, kind of zigzag.
Okay, so this is not in front of their dining area?
No,
Okay,
no, it's over the rail trail.
all right.
Right.
So that cuts off my second question.
On the other side, next to Local Burger, it's in Railroad Plaza, Railroad Square. So there are poles in Railroad Square, and instead of having a pole right up against the building, we would go from the pole in the center of Railroad Square or in the vegetated islands and whatnot to the building and vice versa.
Okay, pretty likely the owner of the building, not Local Burger, is giving consent for this?
That's right.
Okay,
Yeah,
just want to make sure.
Yeah, we
Big difference.
contacted the local manager. They put us in touch with the property owner, and the property owner did respond and say that he's amenable to it.
Surprise, huh?
Yeah, and how much did he want for that? No, I'm sorry. Yeah, question?
No, same question. I was gonna ask the same question.
Okay, anything further about the lighting? Oh, that's a good move. Motion, please. Well,
Move to recommend that the city manager be authorized to do all things necessary to negotiate and execute revocable license agreements with the owners of parcel numbers 575-012 Margaritas and 575-057 Local Burger for the attachment of city-owned and maintained lighting systems to privately owned buildings.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Anything further, committee, public? Seeing none, all in favor? We are unanimous.
Have a great evening.
That concludes our agenda this evening. And once again, congratulations for the New York Times mention. That's great.
Should have saved that for last.
Yeah. And we are adjourned. Thank you.